Consider this reasoning. 1, everyone who loves ping pong loves pickleball. 2, everyone who loves pickleball loves tennis. So 3, everyone who loves ping pong loves tennis. Is this valid reasoning? Yeah, for sure. That one's easy. But as we've had occasion to observe a couple of times by now, it's not always so obvious whether we're dealing with valid reasoning or not. As an example, now consider this reasoning here. 1, no one who likes Aristotle likes Socrates. 2, only logicians are wise. 3, Aristotle is liked by someone wise. So 4, there's a logician who doesn't like Socrates. Is this valid reasoning? It's not so clear. One way to assure ourselves that a piece of reasoning is in fact valid is by giving what we call a proof or derivation. In a proof, we show how to get from the premises to the conclusion step by step, and we go as slowly as we can. We try not to take any big leaps that are hard to follow or open to doubt, because the whole point is to demonstrate once and for all that the reasoning is, in fact, valid. So, for example, in order to demonstrate that this conclusion follows from these premises, we might say, first of all, if we combine the assumption that Aristotle is liked by someone wise with the assumption that only logicians are wise, we get the conclusion that Aristotle is liked by a logician. In other words, we get there is a logician that likes Aristotle. So that conclusion that there's a logician that likes Aristotle follows from lines 3 and 2. Next, if no one who likes Aristotle likes Socrates, then we can conclude that anyone who does like Aristotle doesn't like Socrates. So that conclusion that anyone who likes Aristotle doesn't like Socrates follows from line 1. And now, from there's a logician that likes Aristotle, and anyone who likes Aristotle doesn't like Socrates, we can conclude that there's a logician that doesn't like Socrates, which is the conclusion of the original reasoning. So we've now demonstrated, in a way that hopefully puts it beyond dispute, that the original reasoning is valid, because we've shown little step by little step how to get to the conclusion from the premises. Now, just a couple of notes to add here. First, you might ask, when exactly are we going to regard ourselves as having proven the validity of the original reasoning? In particular, how little do the individual steps that get us to the conclusion have to be in order for us to declare that the job is done? For example, what if, going back to our example here, we had skipped the step taking us from line 1 to line 5? So what if, after deriving line 4, we had just said, and then from lines 4 and 1, we get the conclusion we're after, that there's a logician who doesn't like Socrates? Would that also have counted as a way of proving that the conclusion follows from the premises? Or is the step from lines 4 and 1 straight to the conclusion too big, to the point where this wouldn't count as a way of proving that the original reasoning is valid? Maybe that one would be okay. Maybe it would make sense to still count this as a proof that the original reasoning is valid. But what if we had reasoned like this? From line 2, only logicians are wise, we can conclude that anyone who is wise is a logician. And then from anyone who's wise is a logician, Aristotle is liked by someone wise, and no one who likes Aristotle likes Socrates, we can conclude that there's a logician that doesn't like Socrates. Would that count as a way of proving that the original reasoning is valid, or is that last step too big? This is an excellent question. Ultimately, the way we will deal with this issue is just by explicitly listing out each type of step that you're allowed to take in going from premises to conclusion when you're trying to prove that the conclusion follows. So, for example, we'll say that if you want to go from if A then B and A to B, that's fine. That's great. And if you want to go from A and B to A, that's great. You can do that too. And there'll be several more types of inferences that you'll be allowed to make beyond these. But then we'll say that any step that we haven't explicitly put on the list, even if it is in fact valid, and indeed, even if it seems obviously valid to you, you still can't use it when you're trying to get from premises to conclusion if you want to be regarded as having proven that the conclusion follows. The choice of exactly what types of inference steps to allow in the course of a proof is somewhat arbitrary. There's no single right way to make that decision. The key point for now is just that we do have to make some decision about it. Otherwise, it would never be clear exactly what counts as proof of validity and what doesn't. Okay, second thing that I want to note, we can call this a proof, but if we do, we should just be careful about what exactly has been proven. We started with the question of whether this reasoning is valid, and what we've shown here is that the conclusion does indeed follow from the premises. So what has been proven is just that this reasoning is indeed valid. Whether the conclusion is actually true is a further issue. To tell whether this argument establishes its conclusion is true, we'd have to figure out whether the premises are actually true, which is something we haven't said anything about at all. So we haven't earned the right to say that we've proven the conclusion itself. We've just proven that the conclusion follows from the premises.